Hello, and welcome to Truck Weight Analysis, helping distributors to sell. You're very welcome. My name is Sarah O'Grady, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at TruckScience. So just a little bit about TruckScience. For those of you who are new to it, we work with chassis salespeople, body and equipment manufacturers, upfitters, fleet engineers, and transport operators, among many others. We provide a simple truck layout and weight analysis solution to industry professionals who care about putting safe, legal, and efficient trucks on the road. Our tool includes a growing library of truck size and weight regulations for jurisdictions around the world, including all US states and Canadian provinces. TruckScience is primarily used to carry out weight studies. Typically, a weight study calculates axle weights, vertical center of gravity, and maximum payload. It should also verify that the upfit will comply with both the chassis manufacturer's limits as well as the relevant DOT regulations. Of course, a vehicle may operate in more than one state or province, and in that case, it should be compliant with each of those sets of DOT regulations. The limits or those regulations may include limits for total vehicle weight, axle weights, unloaded vehicle weight in the case of the manufacturer, overall length and height, axle spacing, and rear overhang, among other dimensions. When they perform weight studies, chassis salespeople, upfitters, and fleet engineers provide valuable information to prospects, customers, and end users. With appropriate tools and the necessary data, weight studies can be carried out quickly and easily, and the findings can be presented clearly. Body and equipment manufacturers can support their customers and distributors, as well as their own sales teams, by providing the data they need to perform those weight studies. In this webinar, I'm going to show you how companies can make their product specs available to whoever they choose, whether that be internal staff, trusted individuals or teams at third-party organizations, or to a wider audience, including, for instance, all users of the TruckScience tool. This webinar will include a live demo of the TruckScience Axle Weight Calculator, and I will explain the process of sharing data through the platform. Many of you who are attending this webinar today have been using TruckScience for years. I saw some of you as you entered the waiting room. You're especially welcome today. And others are seeing it for the first time. So my challenge will be to give first-timers a flavour of this topic and the tool without hopefully boring those of you who are experienced in both. If, however, you find the pace a little fast, we will be happy to set up a demo with you or your team in your own time. As you probably know, truck design is all about competing priorities. So we just take a look now at some of the things that upfitters, fleets, and end users are trying to achieve when choosing components and laying out a truck, and some of the constraints that must be taken into consideration when designing those trucks. So firstly, performing weight analysis can help to achieve higher maximum payload, better vehicle stability, and optimal utilization of axle capacity. It should also contribute to decreasing capital cost and fuel consumption through right-sizing the chassis, minimizing unforeseen issues that could result in costly rework, maintenance, and warranty issues, and not to mention avoiding fines. But as we know, vehicle designers are constrained by, firstly, the rules of the DOTs in the states and/or provinces in which the vehicle will be operated. For example, final stage manufacturers are required to certify that the vehicle, as completed, complies with all Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards, FMVSS or CMVSS in Canada, and emission requirements. Secondly, the capabilities of the chassis, for example, the gross axle weight ratings and gross vehicle weight rating. And then lastly, operating conditions, for example, the space that's available for the vehicle to turn. No doubt you could add to all three elements on this slide. So let's talk about what TruckScience is and what it is not for a moment. At its heart, the TruckScience Axle Weight Calculator is a software tool for speccing the best truck for the job, and that's at the concept stage. It's not a complex engineering tool. It doesn't perform crane stability, frame stress, cornering, or braking calculations. It's not a CAD tool, and we sometimes hear it described actually as a pre-CAD tool. It's a quick way of laying out a vehicle before you go to CAD. It does not have anything to do with onboard scales. The tool brings mathematical formulae, chassis, body, and equipment specs and legislation all together. So you can calculate axle weight distribution, unloaded vehicle weight, dimensions, center of gravity, and maximum payload, and ensure you comply with both the chassis manufacturer limits and the DOT or regulation limits, including bridge formula. So we're going to jump into a quick demo now. I will show you how to configure a vehicle with custom drawings, calculate axle weights, maximum payload, center of gravity, and overall dimensions, and then confirm that that configuration complies with the chosen regulations. Lastly, we will generate a report. As we go through the session, please do raise your questions in the Q&A, and Martin will bring those to my attention. Martin, I might just check while I'm getting to share my screen here if there are any questions so far.
Yeah, thanks, Ulrika. There are no questions at the moment. So just a reminder to use that Q&A feature. I'll be able to answer your questions there in the chat, or if the opportunity is there, Sarika may even be able to show you something in the app to answer your questions. And we can also just share the answer with everybody that's in the webinar. Thanks, Sarika.
Thank you, Martin. So the first thing we need to do when we open the TruckScience tool is to choose a chassis. You can see obviously that there's a whole range of chassis brands in there. I'm going to just click through to choose a Ford Super Duty 4x4, and then I can use some keywords here to filter the list even further. In this case, I'm just going to type 350 regular diesel and dual rear wheels. And sort the list on spec date, and I'm going to choose this Ford SD F350 with a 169-inch wheelbase. So as you'll see, these drawings have been sourced from Ford and are already in the tool. I'm going to give you a quick tour here to orientate yourself. So these are the input menus on the left-hand side, and they're divided into vehicle, body, equipment, payload, and trailers. That's where you, I guess, change things on the configuration. We've got a compliance dashboard here below the cab, and it is checking for compliance with manufacturer limits, regulations, and organization standards. In this case, we've chosen Illinois state roads for our regulatory compliance checks. You can add up to 5 states or provinces there at once. We have a weight summary table, which I'll get to later. You've got various views over here, a bridge view, center of gravity view, turning radius view, and up along the top you can save or share your calculation. But before we go any further, I'm just going to add a service body to this chassis. And actually, I want to show you where I would get that information. So let me share another screen quickly. So for instance, I go to the Reading truck website, I choose truck bodies, service bodies, and go down here to these SL service bodies. Look at the specs, and you'll see that already in the public domain here, if I search for the 132-inch body, we've already got drawings. Let's say this particular model here. You've got drawings, dimensions, so you've got your length there of 132. You've got a weight for the body, and you've got numerous dimensions then of other parts of the drawing. But everything we need is already here on this website in order to import a drawing. And on our own website on TruckScience.com, you will find explainer videos, and the explainer videos you can use a video to help you to prepare a drawing for import, and then another one that will show you how to import a drawing. So we can assume that we've already done those steps just to save a little bit of time here. And I'm going to go back to the TruckScience program now and import a drawing. So I'll just share my screen again. So I choose add body here on the left-hand side, service body, and I can choose from the library of bodies as listed there, or I'll go to import a DXF drawing. Choose my file, which I've prepared earlier, and pull in that drawing, which is a trace of the drawing that you saw on the Reading Truck website. So I just eyeball the drawing to make sure I have the correct one. And then I can position it on the XY axis if necessary. It's not necessary this time. And now I need to just start to punch in some of these dimensions and weights, etc. So we saw on the website that the length of this particular body was 132. The height is scaled from the drawing, but I will give it a dimension for this distance from the bottom of the body to where it meets the chassis, and I'll make that 10 inches. And then I will give the body a width of, in this case, 93 inches. And the compartment depth, which I also found on the Reading website, is 21.5 inches. So I move along to the next. And I will specify body weight. Again, I pointed that out on the website. It was 1,620 pounds. And the center of gravity points here our point is estimated, but you can override that if you have some more information about it. So now I'm just going to give it a description. And I might just give it a year maybe as well. And that drawing is imported onto our chassis. Once I've done that, there's a whole load of new information that has been added to the weights summary table. But before I'm going to point those out, I just want to move the body around. So I can just take the body and drag and drop it like this, and you'll see that the axle weights are being recalculated as I do that. Or I can click on a particular dimension, like for instance, this 3-inch cab gap, and override that to, let's say, 2 inches. So you can manipulate the body by dragging and dropping, or by these fields over here. Okay, so if we have a look at this weights summary that's underneath the chassis and body now, it provides a detailed breakdown of axle weight distribution. Top rows here, these first 3 rows, represent an itemized list of components and how their weight is distributed over the front and rear axles, and then we've got their total weight. You'll see that 1,620 pounds from that weight that I input when I imported the body. These are all added to get the total unladen weight here on the front, on the rear, and the total. So the total at this point is 8891. If we skip a few rows to this permissible label here, we can see that the permissibles are derived from the most binding of the structural and street legal constraints. That is, the lesser of the manufacturer ratings and the state regulations. So for instance, if I click on that 14,000 pounds for total permissible, you will see that we have a gross vehicle weight rating specified by Ford of 14,000 and a Bridger regulation limit in Illinois of 40,000, but the total permissible for this vehicle is the lesser of those two, and that is 14,000. The same applies to the rear axle. We've got a gross axle weight rating of 10,300, regulation limit of 20,000, and again, the lesser of those is applied as a limit on this axle, and that is 10,300. So that's the permissible value there. So the total unladen then is compared with the permissible value to calculate the maximum achievable payload. And in this case, it is 5,109 pounds. In this case, the vehicle is maxed out on its total capacity, 100% utilization of the total capacity. But in other cases, the front or rear axle may reach their limit before the total column reaches its limit, and then you would not have a simple sum where you subtract total unladen for permissible. One of the other axles will reach their limit first, and obviously the program will take that into account. The payload is added back onto the total unladen to get the gross weight on the axle, which in this case is highlighted in green, and that is compared to the permissible, again 14,000, to calculate unused capacity. The unused capacity of the total limit is £0 because we're maxing out at 100%, but you will see that there's unused capacity of 468 on the front axle, 1,432 on the rear axle, and those are also expressed as a percentage, what we call utilization. So we are achieving a utilization score of 100% of the vehicle's capacity at this stage. We're just going to pop over here to examine some of these views on the right-hand side. We have a bridge view, which I guess is not that relevant for a small vehicle like this. Center of gravity view, where you can see the overall center of gravity is 35.6 inches from the ground now. Turning radius view, where you can see that the smallest vehicle in which this truck can turn is 346 inches wall, has a radius of 346 inches wall to wall, or 323 curb to curb, or 27 foot or 9 yards radius. We pop back to the side view. And at this stage, to save me having to import this body ever again, I would save it to my library. I can save it to my own personal library. This is the default option, and it is the most locked down option. Only myself as a user will be able to find that body in my personal library. Or if I jump here to the most open option, is to share it to the public library, so other users of TruckScience can reuse this body. If I want to share it with my own colleagues, I'll share it to the team library. Or if I want to make it available to trusted users outside of my organization, and I have a distributor library in the tool, I can share it to the distributor library. It will then only be made available to named users or companies which I have authorized. We'll just share it to my personal library for now. Okay, next I want to add a crane, and I'm going to go back to my web browser. Martin, are there any questions while I'm moving around here?
Yes, Sarika, there are a few questions, and we can maybe already address one or two of them right now, maybe, or when you go back to the demo. So maybe the first one was a question about the list of vehicles that we cater for in our library, and specifically if we cater for the Ford Transit vans. And once you're finished with your demo, you can maybe just demonstrate that list of vehicles there, and also explain the request a vehicle feature if you don't find a particular vehicle that you are looking for. And then the second question was, where did you select the regulations for the states? If you can just point that out again under settings. And then the third question is about different axle layouts that we cater for, and specifically if we cater for tandem axle chassis. And yes, we do. And we cater for quite a few more axle layouts. And again, Sorika can show that the options of axle layouts that we cater for, maybe from that template vehicle feature, Sarika, we can come back to that a little bit later. But yeah, keep your questions coming. I'll type some answers and ask Sarika to also demonstrate in the app where you can find these features. Thanks.
Thank you, Martin, and thank you for your questions. So I will address question 1 and 3 there about the Ford Transit or the vehicle library and the axle layouts when I go back out to select a vehicle in a while. And in the meantime, I will show you where you can select your states. And there are kind of 2 ways to do that. You can, underneath the dashboard here, you can see that we've got manufacturer limits, regulatory compliance, and organization standards. And I can click on the settings icon. Firstly, I can click into regulatory compliance to see what is selected. And I can click on this settings cog here to open the settings. Or I can do that from up here on the top right-hand side. We've also got another link to settings up here. And you see here regulations applied. In this case, it's Illinois State Roads. You can clear those out and select any other up to 5 at once. You'll see all the US states, including some special permits, are covered in here. So you'll see there's Kentucky Interstate, State AA highways, State AAA highways, and you'll see there for Massachusetts we've got some kind of special sets of regulations covered as well. Yeah, so you can choose up to 5 at once there. There's Canada, Ontario, provincial SPIF, Quebec, etc. So I'm just going to leave mine on Illinois for now, but I will change them later, and you will see the effect that that has at that time. Any other questions before we move back out of here, Martin?
I think we can come back to the question about the vehicles in the library and the different axle layouts then later on.
Yes. Okay. So we're just going to pop back out to the browser here for a moment. And we obviously found the spec for the Reading body on the Reading website. I'm just going to pop to the Auto Crane website now to choose a crane that I'm going to add. If I go to products, service cranes, and I'm just going to go down to this EHC4 16-foot. And if I scroll down here to this EHC4 16 and 20-foot Next Star manual. And I just want to show you that this kind of information is already available on many websites. So this document contains drawings, dimensions, the center of gravity and weight information. For instance, on page 7 here, you've got width, height, length, and weight. And then on page 59, I think it is, you've got some nice drawings there. So again, you would use the explainer videos on our website to trace those drawings, preparing a drawing for import, save your drawing locally, and then return to the TruckScience program to import them. So I'm going to return to the program myself now. So we have already seen the vehicle chassis menu, the body menu, and now we're looking at equipment. So I'm going to choose crane. And if I check the library here, you can see there are pages and pages and pages and pages of cranes already there. And if you don't find what you're looking for in there, there is a link here at the bottom to ask us to add it. As I said, I can import a drawing again, but in this case, the crane that I'm looking for is already in the library. And this is the beauty of adding products to the library, is that all of the work is already done for everybody. And you can simply just grab the crane and pull it on there. So if I just click on the crane to open up the menu, I just want to position it firstly. Let's see, from the back of cab, I want to give it 10 inches, and above or below the chassis. I think it's, oh no, sorry, let me find. My apologies, I don't have the position here that I thought I did, so I'm just going to position it willy-nilly here myself. And obviously you can visually position it if you don't have those dimensions anyway. But if I just open the crane to review it, I can see that the length is 113.9, and that equates to what we saw on the Auto Crane website. The width is 21.4, and the weight of this particular crane is 960 pounds. Its center of gravity relative to the front, bottom, and left side 76.3, 11.8, and 9.1. These weights and center of gravity are read-only. You cannot change them, and that is because Autocrane opted to lock those down when the cranes were being added to the library. So it is possible for our manufacturers to add their products to their library and lock them down completely so that they cannot be misrepresented on drawings. Let me see. So this position tab, then I could go from the back of the cab. I can choose, say, 5 inches and 30 above the chassis. Yeah, leave it at that. So you'll note there has been a drop in the payload now. If you look at the payload row here on the weights table, the payload has dropped to 4,149, and that is due to that additional weight in total unladen weight. The auto crane is coming in there at 960 pounds. It is putting just 15 pounds weight on the front axle right now and 945 on the rear. Interestingly, if I move that crane further towards the rear, it will eventually put a negative weight on the front axle. So you can see here, oops. If I move it further back, we've now got a negative weight of 85 pounds on the front axle and a weight of 1,045, which is obviously more than the crane itself weighs, on the rear axle. So that's just an interesting example there. Move it right back to where we had it. I'm going to add some more equipment here, and again, I'll just choose something that's already in our library. So I'm going to add a power unit, equipment, other, and I'll search for this VMAC multifunction product. And again, there's a true to life drawing that you can add at the click of a mouse. Again, I can open this particular piece of equipment to position it, and in this case, I'm going to position it 10 inches from the back of the cab and 30 or so above the chassis. Again, I can move that up and down just with a drag of my mouse. I'm just going to add another piece of very generic looking equipment to, I suppose, show you the difference. If we take a template and add this very kind of boxy, you can rename it whatever you want. Let's just give it a foot by a foot by a foot, and I'm going to give it a significant weight here just so you can see what happens when we overload an axle. In this case, we've overloaded the front and the total. See, here we go. Okay, so it's just the front axle that is overloaded now at 106.5%. So for instance, if that were, I don't know, small but very heavy tools, and I can take that, drag it along, and you'll see at the point at which the front axle is now at 100% capacity, but we have unused capacity of 297 pounds of the total capacity of the vehicle. So you can see we're at 100 on the front, 297 remaining of the total capacity. So if I drag that a little bit further back, now we're at 100% of the total vehicle capacity. We're getting a little bit more payload, and we can keep going until, say, for instance, the utilization of the axles is about even. So about 88 and 87% there. So that's just something interesting to play around with. I'm going to remove that little piece of equipment now. Something else maybe to point out at this stage would be a new feature we added this year, which is to be able to examine left-right weight distribution down here at the bottom. So you can click that on there and then see a breakdown on the left and right. If I go to the side view here, or I'm sorry, the top view, obviously it makes sense to have that crane maybe over on the curb side. And you'll see the left-right distribution is changing as I go. And again, those left-right, that will indicate where one of the corners is overloaded. And probably if I add back my little bit of equipment and that little very heavy piece of equipment and give it that quickly in a weight of, what did we say, 2,500, you'll see that the front left is overloaded. I'm going to remove that again and pop back to the side view. What maybe also makes sense to just point out while I'm here is this center of gravity point. And if we go back to the top view, you can see that the center of gravity point is just an inch off center there because I guess the crane is probably heavier than the power unit. Martin, are there any other questions?
Yes, there are quite a few nice questions here, and one that you've actually just answered, and that is, can you get an overhead view? So that's the top view that you're showing there. So that has been addressed. And then there was a question about the fuel weight, whether the fuel weight is included in the calculation, and we can probably just point that out. So in some cases, the manufacturers include the weight of the fuel in the chassis mass or weight, and we actually show that under the notes. And Sarika is pointing it out there. If you click on fuel in tank 1, you'll see in the case of Ford, quite often Ford will include the weight of the fuel in the chassis weight there. Other manufacturers may exclude it. In cases where it's excluded from the chassis weight, we will add it separately under fuel and crew. So there'll be an extra line for that. And you can specify the capacity in the fuel tank and basically whether it's included in the chassis weight or whether it needs to be added as additional weight. So definitely you want to consider that, assuming that the vehicle has a full tank of fuel when it is being weighed. Then there is another question about, can one search for a vehicle by its VIN? This is not available yet, but I will log this request and we will notify everybody if we do add this feature. And then there is another question here. Okay, no, yeah, I think we'll come back to some of those other questions a little bit later on when you're done with the demo. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so we're on the center of gravity view here, but I'm just going to go back to the side summary view that we're used to. So if we review the weights table again, we can see that the payload has dropped further, obviously, to 3,649, and that was with that the additional equipment that was added. And we're all using 100% of the available capacity. This might be a good time to point out the organization standards also. So these we talk about 3 pillars of compliance: manufacturer limits, regulatory compliance, and then organization standards. So organization standards are just some checks that you can add yourself. Maybe these are some best practices of your own organization. For instance, I have added this gross weight on the front of the vehicle as a percentage. I want that to always be between 10 and 50%. So that particular check is always being carried out then as I go. If I wanted to add, say, an organization standard for the cab gap, I'll click this one on here and I'm saying that the cab gap should be between 4 and 24 inches. So you'll see when I accept that my cab gap is not compliant because my cab gap is only 2. But if I up that to 4, we get a green tick on the cab to body clearance. So that is that third pillar of compliance that I had not dealt with up to now. maybe it doesn't really make sense to have that one, so I just uncheck it in this case, but I can maintain a list of organization standards, and there's a whole bunch of them in here. And these are, I guess, things that matter to some people, don't matter to maybe the majority of our users, and so they aren't applied by default, but you can add them, you can apply them. So that's the organization standards. So as I pointed out earlier, this configuration was being checked against Illinois or regulations for Illinois state. And let's just review those regulations. So if I click on permissible here in my weights table, we've got a bridge or regulation limit of 40,000, rear axle limit of 20,000, and front axle limit of also 20,000. So if I just want to show you that if I switch to another state, and let's go in this case to Colorado state roads. And whereas Illinois state does not allow extra weight for a biodiesel vehicle, if I were to switch this one over and because it is in Colorado, I will just get a little hint here that biodiesel powered vehicles qualify for a 2,000 pounds weight increase on the overall bridge. Obviously, because we're reaching the permissible limit here before we reach the regulatory limit, that doesn't apply in this case, but it is taking into account things like axle spacing, axle weights, dimensions, the energy source of the vehicle, and many tire width, many other factors when calculating what these limits should be. Okay, I mentioned earlier that we've lots of views here on the right hand side, but that we can also generate a report up top. So I'm going to do that now. And you can choose to include or exclude any of the views that we review as we go through this. So for instance, if I don't want to include a turning radius view, I can just subtract it here from the report as I go along. And then when I generate my report, it should not be in there.
I just want to see, Sarika, maybe there are a few more questions that we can address. Yeah, so I'm just running through the questions again. So we want to see the list of Ford Transit vans. Then we want to see the different axle layouts that we cater for. So 6x4 definitely is one of them. We can cater for pusher and tag axles. And we can even cater for twin steer axles. So, okay, Sarika, are you demonstrating it there? We can maybe start off with the Ford Transit vans.
So we've got the Transit and e-Transit. Anything
Transit, just click on Transit, and then under vehicle type, you can choose pickup, truck, or van. So if you scroll through that list, and if you'd maybe just open one of those options there, just to demonstrate what that looks like, you can pick that first one. So these are the vans. You can upfit those with various equipment or sections, panels on the inside. Then maybe you can go back to the home screen and have a look at the different axle layouts from the templates tab. Yeah, there. So these are the different sort of axle layouts that we can cater for. Plus, you can start off with, for example, a 6x4 and add pusher and tag axles to that. So hopefully that answers the question about the axle layouts. And I think then that is pretty much it in terms of the questions. So, okay.
Okay, thank you. And I wanted to also maybe just show that one of the newer features that was recently added was the checking of the max UVW or unloaded vehicle weight. So let me just quickly open that one again. a vehicle I had open already. So in this case, we go to weights and axles here, and total, you can see that there's a gross vehicle weight rating of 14,000. If the gross vehicle weight rating is 10,000 or less, you will see that you get one extra field, and that is this max UVW, or unloaded vehicle weight. If that has been specified on the vehicle spec sheet, there will be a value in there, and then that will be used when doing the compliance checks with the manufacturer limits. So for instance, the total unladen here is 7,000. So just to demonstrate that point, if I set the max UVW to 7,000, you'll see I've got a red X here on manufacturer limits with the weights. And if I go over here and open the warning, it's going to tell me that the UVW, or the unloaded vehicle weight, exceeds the maximum UVW. So that's just a feature that was added this year that I just wanted to point out to you. If the GVWR is less than or equal to 10,000. I will actually just maybe pop that body back on, and now is a good, it's nice to show you that once we've already saved that body, it's always going to be there for us. It's literally as quick as that.
And we do have one more question here that we can have a look at.
Okay.
And that is relating to different equipment items that we cater for. For example, do we cater for snow plows, brush guards, air compressors, welders, transfer tanks, etc.? And yes, we do have specific categories for some of these, for example, snow plows. Anything else that we don't have a specific category for, you can add from other equipment. And maybe, Sarika, if you could just bring up that menu with the different equipment options, that might be useful. And remember, there's always the option to use the DXF import feature, which will allow you to import any equipment item for which you have a DXF file. All right. Okay, Sarika, are you ready to wrap up the slides there, or?
Yeah, did you want me to just show the equipment categories first?
Yes, if you could, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you could probably wrap up there.
Okay, so this is just the categories of equipment that Martin referred to. And again, within those categories, there is a lot of, or there are a lot of specs that have been added, like standard specs, like we showed you earlier. There are also templates. So, and of course, you can request products that are not already in there. Okay, so I'll just close that one and jump back to my slides again. Okay, so hopefully you're seeing my slideshow now. Okay, so that's it for the demo. Obviously, I'll be more than happy to do a personalized demo for any attendees at a later time, and I will share my calendar, a QR code later where you can actually book time straight away on my calendar. But during the demo, I demonstrated how product specs for chassis, bodies, equipment, and payloads are saved in the TruckScience library. And this is probably one of the more useful features of the tool, is that those specs are available, and they save a lot of time, but they also make those reports look a lot more professional, because you can generate a report from the configuration and save that for sign off, email it to customers. And it is a very professional document. So the default when you are saving product specs to our library is the personal library, and that is the most locked down option. And then at the very other end of the scale, number 4 here, the public library is, as the name suggests, the way to make product specs available to all users of the tool. In between those are the team library, if you want to just share specs with colleagues on your own TruckScience subscription. And then the distributor library is a way to make product specs available to users outside your own organization, but only users approved by you. So, anyone that maintains a distributor library within the tool also maintains a a list of users or companies that are authorized to see products in that library. And that is a very popular option. So you might hear us talking about particular brands that are in our library and you can't see them. In that case, they are hidden in distributor libraries. If your organization is concerned about putting this, albeit very high level information, in the public domain, we recommend starting with the distributor library so that you can control who has access to it and then consider promoting your products to the public library maybe later. When it comes to adding product specs, then manufacturers who add their product specs see the tool as both an opportunity to promote their products and a way to support their distributors and outside sales staff. You'll have seen from the products I added that detailed CAD drawings are not required by the TruckScience program, rather just a very simplistic general arrangement drawing like the one we found on the Reading Truck website. The other information that's required to add a product is the major dimensions, the total weight, and the center of gravity. So there is no secret sauce being shared here. It's all very high level. Most of the information we need, or all of the information in fact, is usually provided on standard spec sheets. And if a spec sheet is not available, some of those dimensions, weights may be measured off the physical product. The three most common reasons manufacturers add product specs to TruckScience are support, promotion, and control. So most manufacturers probably add their products in response to requests from distributors or upfitters, and they want to support them to be able to do quicker and more professional looking weight analysis. Others approach us to add their products where they see it's an opportunity to promote their brand. In the tool, which has an ever-expanding user base, other manufacturers cite their desire to control the quality and accuracy of information that is out there about their products, and they want to be able to grant or revoke access as relationships evolve with distributors. So they want to be able to grant access to a distributor today, but possibly take back that access next week, depending on how that relationship is going. Manufacturers who share product specs in the tool get to define accurate weights, center of gravity, and dimensions, and ensure their products are represented correctly in graphical reports. If you compare the two graphics at the bottom of this slide, you can see that the quality of the drawings is not really comparable. On the left, we're using a template chassis with a template crane, and on the right-hand side, we're using a Kenworth chassis drawing with an original crane drawing from Hiab. So that's kind of the alternative presented there on the left. As you saw, as I said already, there's very limited information available about truck products that are added to TruckScience. Very simple sketch, a few high-level weights and dimensions, and in many cases, the information is already on the company website. There is no DXF file kept or available to be reverse engineered from the program, and products can be added to the library in read-only mode, so users cannot even edit the weights or dimensions or change center of gravity. The original drawings can't be exported from the tool, and you have the option, if you wish, to add disclaimers. So for instance, to say that a crane stability calculation needs to be carried out in addition to the weight analysis. If you're a fleet engineer or an upfitter and you're wondering where to start, you can reach out to body and equipment manufacturers or ask us to do so on your behalf. If you're a manufacturer, you may want to identify some products that you'd like to add to the tool. Work with our data team to add maybe one product at first or a handful of products. Decide who should have access to them and then build on that as you go. So maybe identify some dealers and initially that you want to have access to your products, but consider widening the audience later. The next slide is just a little visual showing some of the brands whose products have been added to our library in the past few months. Many are available in the public library, and as I mentioned earlier, some are hidden in distributor libraries. I touched on some of these features that have been added to the tool in the last, as I went through the demo, but just for any existing users that are here and may not be aware of some of them, we've introduced left-right weight distribution calculation. I wanted to show you the markup on the reports. I didn't get to show you that, but I can do that at any other time. We also introduced this ability to not just choose between imperial and metric measurement, but to be able to choose a hybrid of both. And that was a much requested feature from our users in Canada. So it's going down very well there. I pointed out the maximum unloaded vehicle weight verification that's being done for those vehicles less than or equal to 10,000 GVWR. And lastly, we have added the something that's equivalent to a shared drive, and that is a team folder. And I'll just quickly show you where that is. So if I, for instance, want to save this calculation, I will go to Save As, and I now choose between saving it in my personal folder or my team folder. And let's say, for instance, you can organize your team folder as you wish, and all of the other users on your subscription will be able to see anything you put in here, so you can collaborate. If I put this one, for instance, into the In Progress folder, and then go back out to the home screen, saved calculations, and I'll go to my team folder up the top here. So you've still got your personal folder, you've got a team folder, and if I go to In Progress, you'll see that I have the calculation that I chose to put in there to make it available to subscribers of TruckScience on my team. Quickly jump back to the slideshow again. Any other questions, Martin, while I was there? I should have asked you.
I think we're pretty much done here. There are a few questions about equipment items. How can those be added if the specs are not available on the manufacturer's website? And maybe just to explain that again, you can still request that we add an item for you. We will do our best to get in touch with the manufacturer to try and source the information that we need, and then add it to the library and make it available to you if it is possible. Okay.
And of course, we would use your existing relationships to help get those specs from the manufacturers also. Thank you, Martin. I know we've covered it quite a lot in a short time, and I am conscious of the time. If you'd like to set up a personalized demo for yourself or colleagues who weren't able to attend today's session, or some time to discuss adding your own products to our library, we will gladly meet with you. So you can access my calendar here to grab a slot that works with you, or for you even. If you want to grab a quick, use your phone camera to open that link, you can use this QR code, or you can simply type in calendly.com, and then it's / my name, Sarika, and then - O'Grady, and that'll bring you to my calendar to book a meeting. Besides that, obviously our website truckscience.com has lots more information, including videos. I showed you those explainer videos. There are also testimonials from users of the tool, and I just included some of the shows that we're exhibiting at in the next 6 months or so in the new year. We'll be back at the Water and Wastewater Equipment Show, Treatment and Transport Show in Indy in February. We'll be back at our usual spot at NTA's Work Truck Week in Indy in March. And I should mention that we are partnered with NTA as well as CTA, and also an organisation called HVIA in Australia. We really value those partnerships and enjoy working closely with members of those organisations. We will be at Truck World in Ontario in April, and we'll be at ACT Expo for the first time in Las Vegas in May. If you're not already using TruckScience and you prefer to have a self-led demo, I suppose, you can help yourself to a free trial from our homepage, truckscience.com. Martin, if there are any other questions, I can take them before I finish up here. Otherwise, I'll finish the webinar just now.
Yeah, all good. Yeah. Okay. There are just 2 questions that have come in. What is the cost for the software? And yeah, that's actually that's the only question. So if you do have that on the next slide there, yes, please answer that.
Okay. That question does normally come up, so I normally do keep that slide handy. We have 3 editions aimed at different user needs, and those editions are explained in detail on our website. So if you go to truckscience.com and just click on the pricing link or the pricing menu at the top, the most popular with upfitters is the Professional Edition, which costs 1,800 per year, and that now includes 3 user seats. For the Enterprise Edition has obviously different features available, and we tailor a price based on what it is that you need from that. If you are going to create a distributor library where you hide your products, just for some of our users, that we can have a conversation about that Enterprise Edition. I mentioned that we have that we're partnered with NTA and CTA, and there are discounts for members of those associations. So please do mention that if you want to leave some feedback after the webinar, and you would like to receive a quote or something, just mention that and we can include those discounts. If that is all, and that's all from me. But again, if you have any other questions that come to mind in the next few moments or when the webinar is over, please just reply to some of the emails you will receive to ask them, and we would gladly set up a demo that's tailored to your specific situation there. So that's all for today. I'm going to end the webinar in a moment now. But before you go, please rate the webinar and leave any comments or questions or requests for quotes. If you would like me to get in touch after the webinar, just leave a comment and I will pick it up. But thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you enjoyed the session and got something from it. Goodbye.